I stood outside the locked gate of our family ranch, dust settling on my boots, staring at the 4th of July barbecue I wasn't invited to. Cars lined the driveway, music played, smoke rose from the grills. And there, on the porch, my cousin Brooke cupped her hands around her mouth and yelled loud enough for everyone to hear. "Grace, didn't anyone tell you? This is family only now. You're not really part of the operation anymore." My father stood 20 feet behind her. He wouldn't look at me, just turned his back and walked toward the grill like I wasn't even there. I stood there for a long time, long enough to realize they'd erased me. What they didn't know? I was about to erase them right back. My name's Grace. I'm 31 years old, and I grew up on that 400-acre cattle ranch in Montana. 3rd generation. My grandfather built it from nothing. My father expanded it. And I loved every inch of that land from the time I could walk. I was 12 when I started helping with calving season, up at 4 in the morning, mud on my jeans, pulling newborns in the freezing dark. I learned fence repair, feed rotation, soil management. I could tell you which pasture needed rest and which herd had the best genetics just by looking. But none of that mattered to my family. My older brother Tyler was groomed to run things. He got the meetings, the respect, the attention. My cousin Brooke married a guy with money and equipment, and suddenly she acted like co-owner. And me? I went to agricultural college, studied sustainable ranching and regenerative grazing. They called it hippie farming. When I came back after graduation, I worked as a ranch hand on my own family's land. They paid me barely above minimum wage. I wasn't included in planning meetings, wasn't part of inheritance discussions, wasn't asked for my opinion on anything that mattered. My father used to say it all the time. "Tyler's got the head for this. You've got heart, Grace, but that doesn't pay bills." So I saved every penny I made, lived in a single-wide trailer on the edge of the property, ate cheap, drove a beat-up truck, kept my head down. I wasn't flashy. I didn't have a brand new Ford or a loud voice at the dinner table. But I knew soil, water, grass, and cattle better than any of them ever would. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next changed everything. It started 6 months before that 4th of July. They called a business meeting at the main ranch house. I thought maybe, finally, I was being included. So I showed up early, notebook in hand. Ideas I'd been working on for months. I was ready. Tyler, Brooke, my dad, and Uncle Ron were already seated around the dining table. There was a lawyer there, too. A guy in a cheap suit I didn't recognize. I sat down, smiled, tried to look confident. Tyler cleared his throat. "So, we've decided to restructure ownership. Make things official." I nodded. My heart picked up speed. This was it. They were finally going to recognize my work. The lawyer slid a stack of papers across the table. I leaned forward. Only 2 names were listed as co-owners, Tyler and Brooke. I blinked. Read it again. "Wait," I said. "What about me?" My dad didn't even look up. "Honey, you've been great help, but you don't have the investment stake. Tyler put in $50,000 last year. Brooke brought in her husband's equipment. I've worked here for free for 9 years." Brooke's smile was so condescending it made my skin crawl. "Sweetheart, sweat isn't equity." Uncle Ron laughed. Actually laughed. Tyler leaned back in his chair. "You're welcome to stay on as a hand. We'll bump you to $16 an hour. $16 an hour for 9 years of my life." My throat tightened. I tried to keep my voice steady. "What about the south pasture? Grandpa told me that land was mine, 320 acres. He promised me." My dad waved it off like I'd just asked for pocket change. "That was just talk, Grace. We need that for expansion. I stood up. My chair scraped loud against the floor. So, I'm worth nothing to you? Brooke tilted her head. Don't be dramatic. You're just not business-minded. The lawyer looked uncomfortable, but he didn't say a word. I walked out. No one followed. I sat in my truck in the driveway, hands shaking on the steering wheel, staring at the land I thought would be mine someday. The land I'd bled for. The land I loved more than any of them ever could. That night, I opened my laptop, and I started researching foreclosure auctions in the county. 2 months later, Thanksgiving rolled around. I'd been going to our family Thanksgiving my entire life. Usually, I brought mashed potatoes or a pie. We'd eat too much, sit around the fire, play cards. I waited for the group text about potluck assignments. It never came. Instead, I ran into Brooke and Tyler at the feed store in town the week before. I was one aisle over, picking up mineral blocks, and I heard Brooke's voice. I'm doing a seated dinner this year. Only immediate family and stakeholders. Good idea, Tyler said. Keep it tight. I stepped around the corner. We made eye contact. Neither of them said a word to me. Just kept talking like I wasn't even there. I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. For the first time in 31 years. I spent it alone in my trailer with a frozen pizza and a bottle of cheap wine, wondering how I'd become invisible to the people who were supposed to love me. But it got worse. In December, I went to the Regional Cattlemen's Association meeting. I was still a member, still had a voice, or so I thought. I'd prepared a proposal for a rotational grazing partnership with some of the smaller neighboring ranches. It was solid. Numbers backed it up. Environmental benefits, cost savings, better meat quality. I stood up during the open forum and presented it. My voice was steady, professional. And then Tyler stood up. My sister means well, he said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. But she's never run a profitable quarter in her life. This is feel-good stuff, not ranch business. The room went silent. Brooke, sitting beside him, smirked. I looked around. The other ranchers wouldn't meet my eyes. My credibility, the little I had, shredded in 30 seconds. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself. I just sat down, face burning, hands clenched in my lap. But one older rancher, a guy named Walt, caught my eye. He nodded slightly. Just once, like he didn't agree with Tyler. I held on to that. Then, in January, I saw it. Tyler launched a new marketing campaign for the family ranch. Grass-fed, sustainable, premium beef. Beautiful website. Fancy Instagram posts. I clicked through the photos. Read the copy. Every single word was pulled from my college thesis. The grazing methods, the language, even some of my photos from old project binders. Brooke posted about it everywhere, tagged food bloggers, called it Tyler's vision for the future of ranching. I felt sick. I texted Tyler. You stole my work. His reply came 30 seconds later. You don't own ideas, Grace. Grow up. That's when I realized it. They would never respect me. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked. So I stopped trying to prove myself to them, and I started building something they'd never see coming. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly buying land for 3 years. I started small, 80 acres of overgrazed, worn-out land at a tax sale, paid $18,000. Everyone said it was worthless. Then I bought 120 acres from a widow who needed to sell fast, $25,000. People said it was too rocky, too hard to work. Then I found a third parcel at auction, 60 acres with a natural water source, 12,260 acres total, $55,000 invested. I took out a low-interest farm loan for part of it and used every dollar I'd saved for the rest. Then I got to work. I rehabilitated the soil using rotational grazing, keyline design, water retention, I brought in a small herd of heritage cattle. Cheaper, hardier, better for grass-fed systems. I partnered with a local butcher, set up at 2 farmers markets, sold direct to consumer. Beef shares, subscription boxes, premium cuts. I built a simple website, started posting videos on social media showing the process, the land healing, the cattle thriving. By year 3, I was pulling in $8,000 a month. Clean profit, sustainable, scalable. I trademarked the brand, Grassroots Ranch Co. I worked my family's ranch during the day, bare minimum, and built my own at night and on weekends. I ran everything alone. No employees, no fancy equipment, and no one in my family knew. I kept the land parcels under an LLC name. I had a lawyer named Joanne helping me structure everything quietly. She was sharp, mid-50s, former ranch kid herself. The brand started getting attention. Chefs in Seattle, restaurants in Portland, a waiting list that kept growing. And my family had no idea. That's when Walt called me. It was March, cold and wet. "Grace," he said, "I saw what you're doing. I want in." Walt was the rancher who'd nodded at me during Tyler's public humiliation. 70 years old, tough as leather, respected. He offered to lease me 100 acres of his land. Handshake deal, 10% profit share. "I'm tired of the old guard," he told me. "Your way's the future. Let me help." Walt introduced me to a regional food co-op, a high-end restaurant group. My business grew faster than I'd ever imagined. Joanne helped me file for grants, navigate LLC protections, draft contracts. One day she looked at me over her coffee and said, "Your family's going to notice soon. Be ready." And she was right. Tyler's ranch started hitting trouble. Beef prices dropped. Costs went up. Buyers wanted proof of sustainable sourcing they couldn't provide. Brooke started pressuring Tyler to sell off part of the land. My dad had a mild heart episode. Suddenly, everyone was worried about legacy. Tyler started hearing rumors about some woman rancher doing well with direct sales in the area. He didn't connect it to me. At a last-minute family dinner, Brooke sneered across the table. "Did you hear about some girl selling beef on Instagram? Probably loses money." I just ate my potatoes. Said nothing. Then the call came. A national food distributor wanted to feature my ranch in a documentary-style promo. The offer was on the table. $1.2 million in partnership funding. Another $250,000 for infrastructure expansion. I was about to sign. And that's when someone at the co-op mentioned Grassroots Ranch Cousins in front of Tyler. He Googled it, saw my name, my face, my land, my brand. 20 minutes later, his truck tore up my driveway. I was outside fixing a fence when Tyler pulled up. He climbed out, staring at everything. The new watering systems, the small barn I'd built, the truck with my logo on the side. "What the hell is this?" he said. I pulled off my work gloves, stayed calm. "My ranch." "You don't have a ranch. You don't have money." "I do now." His face went red. "You stole our idea. That sustainable crap, that's ours." "You stole my thesis," I said. "I'm just using my own work." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. "Dad's gonna lose it when he hears about this. You're splitting the family. You split me out 2 years ago. I'm just doing what you taught me. Business." That's when my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was the distributor's rep. I answered. Put it on speaker. "Grace, we're ready to move forward. Wire transfer goes out Monday. $1.2 million upfront, plus $250,000 for infrastructure. You're going to be the face of regenerative ranching in the Northwest." Tyler's face went pale, thanked them, ended the call. "You're bluffing," Tyler said. I walked to my truck, pulled out my laptop, opened it right there on the tailgate, balance sheets, LLC documents, Land titles, partner contracts, social media analytics, a waitlist of over 600 customers. How did you? I worked, I said. While you posed for photos, I built something real. Brooke's car pulled up. Tyler must have texted her. She got out, looked around, and her expression twisted. This is embarrassing, Grace. You're pretending to be some kind of mogul. I handed her a folder. Joanne had prepared it for exactly this moment. I'm not pretending. My ranch is worth $5 million on paper as of last week. Appraised. Want to see the docs? Brooke flipped through the pages. Her mouth opened. Closed. She said nothing. Tyler's voice cracked. Dad doesn't know, does he? Not yet. But he will? 10 minutes later, my dad and Uncle Ron pulled up. Brooke must have texted them too. Dad climbed out slowly, looking around, confused. Gracie, what's going on? I met his eyes. I built what you said I couldn't. A profitable, sustainable ranch. Bigger vision than yours ever was. Why didn't you tell us? You didn't ask. You didn't include me. So I included myself? Uncle Ron tried to laugh it off. Well, hell, this is still family business, right? No, I said. It's my business. Tyler's desperation was obvious now. We could partner, merge the brands. I looked at him, really looked at him. You called me incompetent in front of the whole county. You stole my work. You uninvited me from Thanksgiving. Why would I ever partner with you? Brooke's voice was bitter. So this is revenge? No, I said. This is me realizing I never needed you. There was silence. Wind moved through the grass. Cattle grazed in the distance. My dad's voice came out quiet. I'm proud of you. I looked at him. The man who'd dismissed me my whole life. You should have said that 2 years ago. Then I turned my back. Went back to my fence. They left. I signed the distributor deal the next week. By the end of the year, I expanded to 420 total acres. I hired 3 employees, all women from rural backgrounds who'd been underestimated their whole lives, just like me. My ranch became a case study in agricultural programs at 2 universities. I was invited to speak at the same Cattlemen's Association meeting where Tyler had humiliated me. This time, I was the keynote. Walt became a co-investor. Joanne joined my advisory board. The family ranch kept struggling. Tyler reached out twice. I didn't respond. My dad sent a letter, a real apology, handwritten. I read it, didn't reply right away, but I kept it. Brooke unfollowed me on social media. I didn't gloat, didn't post about them, just kept building. I renovated the old barn into a farm-stay agritourism spot. Booked out 6 months in advance. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine. I stood on my land one evening, watching the sun set over the hills. Cattle grazed. The wind smelled like grass and rain. Everything I'd built was real, solid, mine. I used to think being cut out was the worst thing they could do to me. Turns out, it was the best. I finally built something they couldn't take, couldn't claim, couldn't erase. And for the first time in my life, their approval didn't matter, because I had my own. If this story hit home for you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who doubted you? Maybe it was family. Maybe it was someone else. Share your story below. I want to hear it. And if you're building something right now that no one believes in, keep going. They'll see it when it's real. Trust me. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.